Well, we didn't seek it out specifically. It was kind of it was an advantageous meeting of minds. Pat and I had made a small film called Entrance a couple years ago, and the members of the Pact who were gearing up to produce a sequel were fans of that film. And then Pat and I were both independently very big fans of the first Pact. So when they reached out to us because they wanted some like fresh ideas, and it just worked out perfectly because we were already friends. We were already such big fans of the first film. He was pretty involved at the outset, and what was nice about Nicholas is that he's very proud of his film as he should be because it's a very good film, and he was protective of it to the extent that he wanted to make sure that if they were gonna make a sequel, that filmmakers he trusted and vouched for would be involved. And so he met with us. He heard initial ideas from us. We heard initial ideas from him. He watched our first film. Then he met with us a second time, and we had another base touch like that. And then once he liked our ideas. He liked our first film, and so he gave us the go ahead. And then what was nice is that at that point he was very hands off. He didn't. He very specifically, Nicholas didn't want to control the film. He wanted, fresh new ideas to come in. Now that said, Pat and I felt almost more protective in a sense that we wanted to make a sequel that would be our film and have our flavor, but that would stand on the shelf next to the original and make sense. We didn't want anyone to watch our film and to feel like we had betrayed the original. Well, it was always planned to have some people from the first one involved because that way it would, like you say, it would tie better in. Originally, it wasn't going to be Katie. It was Haley Hudson who plays Stevie had a much larger role, and during the course of pre-production, she had some conflicting ideas about how she saw her role going, and so in compromise, we wanted to keep Stevie in the film, and we just had to modify what the character did in the film, which shrunk her role. At that time, we were able to approach Katie and see if she'd be interested in coming back into the film. And at first, it seemed like maybe her time was a little bit too like she wouldn't have time to do it because she's got a lot going on. And then she read the script and she liked what her role was doing, and we kept working with her. And then by working with her and her getting excited about it, her role just kind of grew. And now, the way it stands, it's a very interesting move where she comes in, and it's not just a guest appearance at that point. I mean, she really comes in and is a big part of the second, third act. We definitely want it to feel mysterious throughout most of the film, but at the end, I would say we would come down on the side that it is a supernatural tale. Specifically, and again, that kind of so it flows right in from the first film. The idea that seem like they're scary things, but ghosts really are um, spirits that are stuck in some kind of limbo and need help. And so once June is able to help Ellie Ford, she's able to move on. Now, what we added into it was this whole other Judas, the Judas vibe, which is that maybe he's a ghost, maybe he's a nightmare vision. It's really kind of hard to tell. And even by the end, I feel like I know what I think about Judas's presence in the film, but I do think it's kind of fun, like with the end of the first film, to allow Judas some of the details about Judas to remain mysterious. I don't know if I can give a specific number. I can say it was below 500,000. So it was definitely a low, yeah, it was a low budget film, and that sounded to us like a lot of money. What we quickly learned, because our first film was $6,000, but when we made our first film, since we had no money, we didn't do a lot of we didn't have lighting trucks, we didn't have all that extra gear. We didn't have permits. We just went out in the world and shot whatever we wanted to. And in doing that, it gave us a sense that, we had a false sense of how far a dollar stretched. Because when you don't spend any money and you just run around just shooting whatever you want, you shoot, the whole world is your playground until you get caught. And then when you get $500,000 and you've got trucks and lighting gear and everything else, you do have a film with higher production value, but you immediately find that you're not as free. And I don't think you don't regain that freedom until you get into like $10, $20 million. You've got to really start spending some money to regain that freedom. But so shooting it was very tight. We have Patrick and I, with the director of photography, Carmen Cabana, we worked very hard to have very specific shot lists because we had a lot of content to go through every single day. Not only did we have all the scary stuff, but just all the drama, the human relationships, which was something that we really focused on in this film. And so to get all that stuff done on time, we just had to have a very, very strict shooting schedule. And then, similar to the first film, we had to confine most of our action to one location. Well, we've known each other for well over a decade now. We met in film school in Iowa. Patrick is from Iowa. I'm from Alabama. And we worked together on each other's films in Iowa, not knowing that we would co-direct. And then when Patrick moved out here, I moved out here, and then Pat moved out here, and we continued to work on each other's films. And then after I was the AD on a really terrific zombie movie Pat made called Diner. It's great. It's kind of like Sartre's No Exit meets Dawn of the Dead. Anyway, I worked on that, and then Pat was going to return the favor and be the AD on the film I was going to make after that, which was a kind of a big gory love story, and that movie ended up falling apart. And so we had a little bit of money, like $6,000, and a little bit of time, and we had this momentum already built up, and so we knew that we just needed to make a film right away. And we had a very, very small pitch, which was, what if the Dardon brothers made a slasher movie? It never feels like something that we intentionally went after, and yet it feels like it was always meant to be. No, and that's it can be, and I think that there are relationships that have fallen apart because of that. In the case of Pat and I, when we very first started, we always make sure not to argue in front of people. So we do have disagreements because we have our own vision of the world, but we make sure never to argue on set, and we come to set having come to agreement on everything. And when we first started, we would delineate responsibilities. So we would say, well, I was the cameraman on entrance, so it made sense for me to block the actors and for Pat to talk to them about what they're feeling and what they're going through. And then even during the making of entrance, like that, those jobs really kind of those delineations fell away, and we just started speaking with one mind. And on the Pact too, we never even discussed who would do what. We just show up on set, and people ask us questions, and we tend to agree, and we make sure we do our homework. So we're never on set discovering what the film is. We've already figured that out, so that we don't have to, have those discussions. And then what's nice about it, since we kind of share a brain, we're able to get pulled in multiple directions. And this didn't happen on Entrance, but it happened on Pact 2 often. We would have the art director would be talking to me across the room, and then Pat would get pulled over by the AD to discuss scheduling, and then we'd make eye contact, make sure we're all good, everything's fine. But still, we were able to save a lot of time that way. Gosh, that's a great question. It's a horror film, and so the very first thing is to scare people, to cause them to have an emotion. And then after that, I feel like one thing we tried to do with the Pact mythology was to double down on character. And we are very interested in the ways in which past actions have a ramification on the present, which in many ways is what the first Pact is about. But we wanted to take that notion, which is the backbone of the first film, and make it the whole body of the second film. And so it's really about how toxic events in the past tend to poison the present. I think that the movie has come out, and the very, very first wave of everyone trying to see the movie are people that love the first film, because it's a good film, and aren't able to stop and say, what is this film saying? And are just, it's very easy to get hung up on this idea that this film is too much like the first film, or this film is too different than the first film, or this film is, or I didn't like the first film, and so I don't like this one, without stopping and saying, well, what is this film saying? And Pat and I both believe that you have to, when you encounter a work of art or a work of media, whatever, you have to engage with that thing on its own terms and say, what is this? And what is the music in this? What are the performances and the characters? What is this all saying? And so we're very proud of the Pact 2, and hope more people see it. I assume he's seen it. Nicholas has been so busy because he's got a new film that's been rolling out at the Devil's Door, and I think that he's been really. I mean, I don't even know if he's been in L.A., so we haven't had a chance to catch up because he's been doing the festival circuit with that film. So as soon as Nicholas and Pat and I have a chance to have some coffee, we'll have to ask him how he feels that it all turned out. We've got two or three things that we're working on. We got two scripts in development. One, the next thing we're doing is with the same producers that we just worked with on the Pact 2. And it's, I can't say too much, but I can say that it's much more of a balls to the wall horror film with a capital H. And kind of like a crazy midnight movie. And then the thing we're going to do after that is closer to a thriller.